Hi everybody, welcome to Stalking the Wild Auto Harp, and I'm Hal Weeks, and this is going to be a long one. It started out being a rather short video, but it got more involved than that. This is a B model auto harp. This one has been refinished, so it doesn't look like the standard B model auto harp. But the way you know it's a B model is it's got these bridge pins up here that alternate up and down like that. And it's got an aluminum string anchor that sits in a route at the bottom. And that anchor right there is what this episode is about. These B model auto harps, both the old ones, the vintage ones, and the newer ones, are manifesting all kinds of problems. The old ones didn't really used to have it, but it seems like they're popping up now with age. And the newer ones seem to be getting it sooner. If they don't have it when you pull it right out of the box, when it's brand new, it's already showing the problem. And if your auto harp has fine tuners, it probably is not an issue, but it can be. These string anchors were originally made for friction fit. They would just drop down into the route that's down there, and the string tension itself would create sort of a wedge that caused the anchor to hold in place. But over years, that is becoming a problem. It's pulling out. It is ruining the top, making the top sink in, usually under the chord bars where you can't see. And it is making it so the auto harp won't stay in tune anymore. And it's a progressive problem. I have a photograph that shows the beginning of this problem on this very auto harp, which means this auto harp needs to have corrective surgery done to prevent it from going any further. And this video will hopefully help you to diagnose whether yours has it. If you have a vintage harp, you should have it done anyway, because these vintage harps are getting harder to find because they are getting ruined by this very problem that we're discussing. And we want them to last. We want them to last for the next generation of auto harp players, whether they're beginning or established. These vintage ones sound sweet, and the new ones, hate to say it, folks, but the new ones just don't. And they're going out a lot faster than the old ones. So let's save at least the old ones and get this work done. The point of this video is to help you decide whether you can do the work yourself or whether you need to have it done for you by a pro who knows what he or she is doing. Without further ado, the first part of this video was made as a freestanding video that would show you the problem. But then we got into filming the fix. And so the second part of the video is the restorative work, the surgery itself being done, so you can see what's involved and whether or not you have the skills and the guts to do the work yourself. So let's take it away and I'll see. Okay, so this auto harp, this is its actual anchor that has been removed from the slot and put up here temporarily so that I could work on it. But for the sake of this video, I've put in this alternate anchor so that you can see how it was sitting. The top of this auto harp is nice and flat, but the anchor was starting to ride up just a little bit. As I've showed you in other videos, this little gap is the indicator that you want to look for. And if it's got a tiny little triangle there that you could stick a pin into, That's enough to cause problems, and I wanted to show you that because when I removed this anchor, this is what I found. And I hope this comes across on the video. You can see that this edge has been compromised and it's rising up. And if I show you the end, hopefully you can see this in the video too, it's split all the way along here again and again, so that this whole piece of plywood all the way down to the end is compromised. Furthermore, look at this line. You'll see that at the bottom of the route it's thinner and then it gets wider as it goes up because that whole wall has been pushed in. In any case, this is pretty close to irreparable. And the fact that it's an OS 21C that's only worth a couple $100 in the first place, this is what we're seeing again and again and again. This is the third one I've seen in 2 weeks. And so if you have an auto harp that has an aluminum anchor like this, and it's down in the route, and it's flat, and it's not coming up at all, and there's no rising, and like I said, just like if you could slide a pin in there, it's already happening. This is something that seems to be happening to the older harps because they're older and they've been under pressure for a long time. And the newer harps seem to be made with cheaper wood, and it's happening sooner. And it's a design issue. Oscar Schmidt invented these and started putting them in just for friction fit. And the friction is now giving out. So we are trying to anchor. My original plan was what we do is we cut out big pieces of wood that are then hidden. You see this chrome thing fits over that and conceals what we do. But we have to cut with a router. We route out big pieces so that we can take big screws and put them in this way through the anchor to secure it hard against that wall so that it doesn't move anymore. And if it's already started, it might be too late for your auto
This
harp.
was recorded in the shop. This is a beautiful Oscar Schmidt Centurion, American made, signed by the luthier. They don't make them much sweeter than this, folks. And this harp has the anchor problem. You can see the anchor rising up out of the route right there. That's enough to cause the flattening of the top and destruction of a beautiful vintage model that you can't get back. It's pulling the anchor forward with 1,500 pounds of string tension, and that will bow the top. So what we have to do, we have to take this chrome cover off, and this is where the surgery is going to happen. What we're going to do is we're going to do all the surgery above this line. You can see where the chrome cover comes to. And so we have to preserve that line and put a big piece of green tape on there that will keep us from doing our cutting work, keep it all under the cover, basically. So a little bit of green painter's tape will protect the top in those areas, and it will also give us a visual line to tell us not to go past that point with our cutting. So right now I'm just masking that off. And that, I believe, is Pete's hand. Hi, Pete. You get the cover all masked off, and then you can take that off. So what we're going to do is we're going to create routes. We're going to cut out big pieces right there that allow for screws to go in at an angle underneath the anchor. Now we have to release the string tension. 3 turns is too many. 1 to 1.5 turns counterclockwise will take all the tension off of the anchor. And as I mentioned before, folks, if you can take the strings off entirely first, even better, which implies do this when you're getting a string change. Because to do it with the strings on, which is what you're going to see us do, to do it with the strings on is a real hassle. So you can see the strings are nice, loose, flabby now. Not much tension there, but enough to make it really difficult to work with the anchor still. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pry up the anchor. I use a piece of wood to protect the top and go under it with a screwdriver. Sorry about the camera angles here. It's hard to get good camera angles sometimes when I'm doing the work myself. But as you can see, I'm prying up the anchor with the strings in place. The anchor is going to help hold the strings. Better if they aren't there in the first place, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. This individual did not want the strings changed. So there it is, popping out. And then I put a piece of tape across the anchor just to hold the strings in so they don't start flying out everywhere. And then I contrived this little way to get them out of the way. A piece of brass bridge rod goes in there, and then I can lift it all up and slide the bridge rod behind a couple of the prongs on the combs to get it out of the work area. Okay, so we're going to put the screws in these spots, approximately 5 of them, going into that wall. We're going to have to do that, we're going to have to route out this surface just to get big hunks out there so we can get our screwdriver in at the right angle. And we want to avoid routing out that hole right there. That's for the chrome anchor. We use a Dremel tool and Dremel router bits. I'm going to show you those. Here's the Dremel. You may already be aware of these, but it's a rotary tool. It's a very fast spinning rotary tool. And here is the router bit. I'm going to put the part number for this into the notes for the video so that you can find one. I was looking for it the other day, and I'm finding that they're kind of hard to find, so we might have to find another tool that does the same job. So I got Greg to do the routing because I wanted to show a right-handed individual doing the work, because most of you are going to be right-handed, and the Dremel itself is right-handed. It spins clockwise, and as I work it with my left hand, I have to fight against it. The Dremel is rather dangerous. Here, Greg is anchoring the top of the auto harp into the corner of the sanding table. You'll have to contrive something on your workbench to keep it in place. And now he is dremeling, and we're gonna correct the lighting. This first shot was in shadow, but we fix that in a minute, and you'll see that improve. But you see, we're cutting out a hunk. Motions go to the left on this. When we're going at an angle. We only cut to the left because of the direction of the spin. If you go the other way, it grabs the wood and yanks it out. That's the problem with doing this left-handed, folks. So there is the beginning of the first cut. Greg then puts in a temporary anchor because he wants to check the alignment of the hole with it. We want the screw to go in between two of the slots as much as possible. It's not a huge problem if it doesn't, but ideally you want it to go between two slots. So he's getting that aligned. He's going to take out more out of that route, all the time not going below the green tape. So if he goes below the green tape, it's going to show when he puts the chrome anchor back on. Also, watch the spinning chuck. You don't want that to take a piece out of the top. He's checking it with a screwdriver head right there, just to make sure he has access to the corner that he needs to drill out in the anchor. Then he does this thing which is ingenious. He makes a mark to show how far back it has gone, so we know by sight how far back to route the next chunks out. We have a visual reference. The first hole went that far back, and so the other ones need to go that far back to get the screwdriver in. So now he's taken out the next chunk. Thank you for doing this footage for me, Greg. He's got a lot more skills than I do. I've done about 20 of these now, though. And rinse, lather, repeat. We do it for each hole that we cut. Now he's decided to extend the bit so that the chuck or the collet does not touch the edge of the harp. He decided it would be better if it was a little bit longer, so he telescoped it out a little bit. And here he is. Notice how he moves from the right to the left with each pass, because that's the safest way to do it. And as before, rinse, lather, repeat. Okay, now back on my workbench. Here is the anchor, and we're going to drill in at that angle to go through the anchor to make holes for the screws. The holes that we drill have to go through the anchor and not into the wood yet, because we make a larger hole for the screw than the pilot hole in the wood. Now what I'm doing, and this is a bad shot, is I'm unhooking all the strings from their corresponding bridges just to get them loose enough to allow the anchor to go back in. Remember, the actual anchor still has the strings in it in this case. And so they all have to be unhooked from the bridge so they're real long. And then the anchor can go into the route. Then we use a little board, and I'm hammering on the other end of it to knock the anchor back down into the route flat where it was before. These are the screws that we use. It's a number 8 steel sheet metal screw, 5/8. This is a 3/16 bit. To go in to that corner again. And as soon as I feel it poke through, I have to let up on the trigger so that it doesn't go into the wood, because we're going to drill that hole later. Each time I drill, I have to stop immediately when I feel it break through. This takes a little practice. Now we use the 1/8 drill bit, and we tape it off about a 1/2 inch up, because we don't want to go more than a 1/2 inch in to make our pilot hole into the wood. So now we're drilling through our anchor hole into the wood, and we have to watch the chuck that it doesn't touch the top of the harp and cause any damage there. Just a little pilot hole to start our screw in. A little wax goes on the screw. Bad camera angle again. My apologies. There's a little, we scrape the screw on the wax. It's just paraffin wax. You can use soft soap, something to lubricate the screw. And we use a manual screwdriver. Notice how I'm hooking it with my fingernail to keep it on there. That's because it's not a magnetic screwdriver. If you've got a magnetic screwdriver, you won't need to do that. The manual screwdriver just gives you a little bit more control as you're going into that narrow space. We're putting the screw in at an angle into the wood. And of course, the object is to not have it come out through the back of the harp, which is why we don't use a longer screw or drill a deeper hole. That's the danger, is getting it coming out the back of the harp. And I sped up the video here. Rinse, lather, repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat. Oscar Schmidt put these in straight down and had them crossing an empty space with a tiny little screw. And so if you look at your Oscar Schmidt auto harp and you see tiny little screws, probably 3 of them, pointing straight down, that is inadequate to stop this problem from happening. But these are beefier with deeper threads. So now, okay, I thought I edited this out. Anyway, there you go. You can see the screws down in their little wells. Peel that tape off. And of course, the chrome plate is going to go right back on there, and it's going to hide all of that work that we did so that it looks original.
So there you have it, folks. Do you have the guts to do this surgery yourself? If not, you want to get it done anyway, because your auto harp could be on the way out, and if it fails, it's irreparable. So It's a good idea to get it done when you're getting a string change, because it's so much easier to do the work when the strings are not attached to the anchor. And it's so much more work that we have to charge double what we would normally charge. If we can do it with a string change, take the strings off, fix the anchor, it goes a lot faster. It's easier, and then we can just put on new strings, and it's all good. But if we do it with the anchor in place, we have to charge more just for the bench time. One last other thought is, if you have an auto harp like this one that you're not playing, so you're not thinking of getting the work done right now, detune it. Take all the pins and turn them back counterclockwise one full turn so that they're loose and floppy. That way they're not pulling on that anchor and pulling it out of place anymore, until such time as you decide to get the work done and get it rejuvenated. That's it for today. I'm Hal Weeks for Stalking the Wild Auto Harp. Remember my website, where you can find all the other episodes of Stalking the Wild Auto Harp, where you can find out about my online lessons that I teach through Zoom to people all over the world. Remember my Patreon. If you like this video, if you found it helpful or intriguing or interesting, and you want to keep this video series going, you can go to patreon.com/Hal Weeks and chip in a few bucks a month just to keep me keeping on. And I so much appreciate my patrons. They got the preview of this video, and they get to see the rest when you get to see it. So thanks again. Thanks for watching. I'm Hal Weeks. We'll see you next time on Stalking the Wild Auto Harp. Bye-bye.